And it's a year to the day since the coronation of King Charles III. Apart from the King himself, of course, the standout performer of that day was Penny Mordaunt. She's the leader of the House of Commons as well as the Lord President of the Privy Council. She stunned everyone with that remarkable, iconic Cape teal dress and her sword-carrying skills. Well, she agreed to do an exclusive interview with GBNews in the Privy Council office to relive and share some insight into that historic day, what led up to it and what it meant to her, as well as giving a bit of an insight into what life is like as the Privy Council's Lord President.
I was very nervous. I was determined and very excited, but also very nervous. And I think one of the most wonderful things about the whole event was it was this massive team effort. Not just the people who were with me in the Abbey, but we knew all the rehearsals that had gone on beforehand with the armed forces, that massive procession through London. And we know that it had to be perfect. It had to be absolutely to the minute. And that's a lot of pressure. But we were all working together and the camaraderie was amazing. And we were practicing not with the crown jewels at the time, but with replicas. It wasn't until the Thursday we actually got our mitts on the real thing. And
what was that like?
It was an amazing occasion, in particular because the King's grandchildren were there as well, and they were very impressed with the crown jewels. But we also had rehearsals going on across the country, including the massive procession that happened. That was literally replicated somewhere out in the sticks, and people were doing that route march to make sure it was absolutely timed to perfection.
And of course I had to ask, how on earth did she keep that sword aloft for the entire coronation ceremony?
No, the sword was very heavy. The question I'd always asked myself when I was doing drill practice on Whale Island with my reserve unit in the pouring rain every Tuesday night was, why am I doing this? Now I know why. It was so I could hold that sword at the coronation. So just an amazing day. And actually the adrenaline on the day just carries you through it. I'd learned from rehearsals that on the day I wasn't going to pick the sword up until I absolutely had to. And so the King's armourer carried it for me before I went into the Abbey, and I didn't put my heels on until I needed to either. Glad I remembered to do that. But so no, you just give yourself every chance of doing your best performance. But really on the day, everything worked perfectly. And I think it was important to the King that he had this amazing ceremony. It was about a third of it had been cut out from the 1953 service, but it was still spectacular, full coronation robes, and I think people would have been disappointed if that wasn't the case. So really amazing spectacle, but he also wanted it to be relevant and modern for the nation as it is now. So I think he kept that role in, the full Lord President role, perhaps because I was a woman and I was representing half the nation. So, and I'm glad he did, because it was an amazing experience.
You mentioned the King there, of course. And what was he like in the build-up to the event? Were you in communication with him quite regularly, I imagine?
Yes, we were rehearsing with the royal family, and he just wanted it to go well. And he also, I think, recognised that obviously it was for him and this important moment in his life, but it was also for the nation. And I think that moments like that really do help reconnect ourselves and remember what this country is all about. No one was complaining that it was an ancient service because it was so relevant to our modern lives. It was about duty and service to each other. And I think that's what the royal family, what they stand for, what they do, that service and duty to us, but also all that accompanies them, and everything that was on display that day, the armed forces, the Church of England, all these community groups that are there to help our communities, help the nation be all it can be. That's timeless. That's completely relevant to today. And I think the royal family continues because it does reflect the nation. It reflects not just what we stand for and our values, but what families go through. When I paid my tribute to the late Queen, the thing that really struck me when I was looking back on her life is that she shared her whole life and her family with us. That would have been hugely intrusive. I think she said she liked going to Balmoral because she got to sleep in one bed for 6 weeks. It's hard to imagine what a life is like. I mean, as MPs, we run about all over the place, we do crazy things, but it's not for our whole life. And I think that is something that is quite remarkable about our royal family. So I think they're relevant, and we've seen that with the recent news on the King and the Princess of Wales's health. It's a reflection of what families go through.
Now, few public servants meet our monarch face-to-face more than Penny Mordaunt. They meet regularly, often weekly, and she shared with me what King Charles the man is really like.
Well, I think people won't be surprised to know that he's completely charming and always calm, and he's also got a really good sense of humour as well. But he's always asking about how things are going. He's, particular issues that we're, dealing with in Parliament, or particular groups who he knows that are having a rough time. He's always asking after those people. So he cares a great deal. And I know that he would have been so pleased to get back to public duties. He will have missed it tremendously. So I think everyone is really pleased to see him back. And I know that he wants to do more. So it's been a good week.
And after our sit-down interview, Penny Mordaunt showed me some iconic and ceremonial royal artefacts that only a select group of people get to see and even touch. It's a fascinating insight into how the Privy Council works and Mordaunt's reflection on the late Queen's passing. They're both unique and emotional. Shall we have a look?
And the King will have these, and that's where all his government papers will be given to him, that he will do every day. It has the new cipher on, and this is my job title, so that's what I will use. But everything has had to have the ciphers changed on it, so we're trying to do this gradually. But what's not often appreciated is for the coronation, all the uniforms needed the ciphers changed on them, so everyone's dress uniforms needed altering. So there was a massive embroidery network around the country to change everything ready for the day.
All these little things people don't think of all that work. Has that sunk in yet? I mean, it must have done by now, surely.
It's a great job title. I don't have a business card, but it is a privilege to do it, and you really do. I think not a lot of people know about the role, and actually it wasn't perhaps until the coronation people knew that there was such a thing as the Privy Council.
What's the day-to-day, if you don't mind me asking? What is the day-to-day of it all then, really, for you?
So the Privy Council does a huge amount of work, and I'd be sent to the Tower if I go into it in too much detail.
Well, there you go.
But it is things like making coins and granting charters and those sorts of things. And then sometimes sort of very real live issues. So, for example, someone might want and need to be buried in a particular churchyard that hasn't done burials for a while. And again, the Privy Council would be granting permission for those sorts of things to happen. So it's very, very varied. But it is all tied back to things like our royal charters and coinage and all that sort of thing.
It's absolutely fascinating. Shall we work our way down then, if that's all right? So
this is a seal, which I think we can pick up. These are very heavy, so you can have a feel of that. So these again will be marking documents like this. So all government departments will have the seals of office. So when we swear in a new Secretary of State, they're given their seals of office, and some of them are little things like that. Others are enormous, and
there's a weight.
People have difficulty lifting them.
I don't want to drop it just in case.
But they are in use in departments occasionally people have to produce those sorts of documents.
Now this looks very official.
Yes, so this is an example of a charter that the late Queen did, and they're produced quite often, and this is obviously the seal that was given on this one.
Yeah, and the memories of the late Queen, because we've spoken a lot today about the coronation. Unfortunately, for there to be a coronation, the previous monarch has to pass away, don't they, usually? So that must have been quite difficult overcoming those emotions as well, presumably, for you?
That was quite a time, because it was my first week in the job. So on the Monday I was a junior trade minister, Tuesday I was promoted, Wednesday we tried to have a meeting with the Queen, and then on the Thursday she passed away, and on the Saturday we were doing the Accession Council. And we had identified the moment we lost the sovereign as a moment of peril for the nation, because you don't know how the public will react. And of course we know that they reacted in the most marvellous ways, marmalade sandwiches across our parks and all sorts of things. But we didn't know that at the time. So I felt the pressure considerably as we were doing the Accession Council. And after I delivered it, I came outside into St James's Palace Yard to hear the first proclamation being delivered that the King had just commanded be delivered from the balcony. And after it was done, the guards did 3 cheers to the King. And I could hear over the palace wall the crowds cheering the King. And at that moment, I knew it was going to be all right. And I did shed a tear, because it was such a relief that the public had responded in such a marvellous way.
Well, I get a bit emotional thinking about it now, actually. But yes, I mean, that's an incredible thing to think about, that you went through that so early on in the job as well. And this here is quite interesting, because I was being told before that I don't know if I'm allowed to touch this. The whole thing might unravel, actually. But
you'll be allowed to pick up this,
so,
as long as you're very careful with it.
Okay. Well,
don't run around with it.
Don't run around with it. No. Now the King has touched this more than a few times, hasn't he? Because it's got some significance. He pricks this charter with it. Is that right? This scroll.
Yes. This is how we make sheriffs. So I will read out who we are proposing to make a sheriff, and he will signify his permission being granted by pricking the. This is used to be vellum.
You're braver than me, so I'm going to put this back down here.
So that's how we make sheriffs.
So every single sheriff here has got their name, and then
so he will signify his approval of them as being his sheriffs.
It's incredible to think that the King has done all of this. Yeah, really that present. It's not for you. You meet him every other week. But yes, okay. And this Secretary of State box here.
So this is again just another little red box, and it will have. This has got a couple of seals in it. So I'm not sure. Let's just see if I can tell which department those are from. If we could turn this round,
if that's all right.
Yeah,
so
certainly.
Show everybody at home what we're looking at here.
So these again, they're used in documents, not every week, but occasionally, and. When a Secretary of State is sworn in, they're given their seals of office, and then they return them when they're out of office.
Oh, wow, okay, all right. So yes, when there's a general election, then they have to scoop them all back in, apparently, and then dish
and
them
return
out again.
them, yes.
But yes, well, look, thank you very, very much for showing us around all this and being so open about it all. I know that our viewers and listeners will really, really care about it, and it's a pleasure to get to know you a bit better as well. So.
Well, thank you, and thank you to everyone that has supported His Majesty and the Queen throughout this year. I think that it's a tremendous effort that people have made, and it's very much appreciated.
Well, that was Lord President of the Privy Council and the Leader of the House of Commons, Penny Mordaunt, there, and I just would like to say thank you very, very much to her and her team as well for letting us see all those artefacts and do all of that. So that was very, very nice of them. Thank you.